Hello and welcome to the Columbus Metropolitan Club. I'm Carol Newcomb-Aludo. I'm a member of CMC's board and the chair this year of the board. It's great to see everyone here today. We have a very full room. If you look in the back, there's hardly any room for anything back there. Please be aware that CMC's traditional audience questions will be submitted in writing today. You will find a piece of paper in your forum flyer for your questions. Please make sure to include your name on your question. About halfway through the program, volunteer members of CMC's program committee will collect these and sort them for appropriate and balanced content, and then select the best questions to be read aloud, and they will read them. CMC is sponsored today by Event Marketing Strategies and brought to us with support from the Dispatch Media Group. Please help me thank them and welcome Jeff Milgram, President and CEO of Event Marketing Strategies, to the stage.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Carol. All of us at Event Marketing Strategies are proud to support the Columbus Metropolitan Club as they bring important and civil conversations on timely topics to the public each week. And we are especially proud to be sponsoring this very, very timely topic today: funding of the arts and taxes. While it is often easy to be for or against something simple and straightforward, today's issue before us is anything but. That's why we look forward to learning more from the collective expertise and passion of our speakers today. First, speaking on behalf of a ticket tax, please welcome President and CEO of the Greater Columbus Arts Council, the GCAC, Tom Katzenmeier. And Tom brought his fan club with him today. That's nice. Next, please welcome the President and CEO of COSI, the Center of Science and Industry, Frederick Bertley. Frederick. Speaking against a ticket tax are the CEO of Classic Productions, founder of the Arnold Sports Festival, and partner with Arnold Schwarzenegger on a handshake for over 40 years, Jim Lorimer. And last, Central Ohio entertainment and sports attorney at Adams Partners Limited, Brett Adams. And now, please welcome our host and moderator, editorial page editor of the Columbus Dispatch, Mary Yost. Mary?
Thank you. Okay, welcome everyone. I'm really excited to be here today. This is going to be part of the information gathering that we're undertaking at the Dispatch to come up with our editorial position on this issue. So my colleague Mary Edwards and I are going to be paying very close attention to the conversation as well. And I can tell from the applause already that the audience is warmed up. So we're going to start today with opening remarks of 2 minutes from each side. The for side will go first, and then we will be followed by the against side. So, Tom Katzenmeier, would you like to start us out?
Thank you, Mary. Nonprofit arts and culture and professional sports and entertainment are big reasons Columbus has become a premier community by adding jobs, educational opportunities, economic benefits, and energy to our lives. Nonprofit culture alone generates $500 million in economic activity, 15,000 jobs, and nearly $400 million in household income, with the arena adding significantly more economic impact on top of that. More than 30 studies have pointed to the fact that a stronger public investment is essential to prevent the erosion of these benefits to our community. If we fail to stabilize our arts and cultural sector and arena, our city will suffer tangible losses, taking cultural facilities and the arena downhill, reducing jobs and family income, diminishing children's educational opportunities, and frankly, making us less competitive and attractive. A 7% ticket fee paid by the ticket purchaser sir, in the city of Columbus is the answer. It will keep jobs, income, educational value, and civic vitality in our community. Many other cities have ticket fees, many higher than 7%, but very few are investing those revenues back into the cultural sector. This is a collaboration in the Columbus way. National research shows that incremental price increases do not reduce attendance. Attendance is driven by increased economic development and the quality of the offering and the quality of the facility. The plan is fair. This is not a broad-based tax on city residents. Arts, culture, arena, and other major venue attendees will pay no matter where they live, and nearly half of the arena concert attendance is from outside Columbus. Under our proposal, the arena is, in fact, a net contributor to arts and culture. We have heard the community feedback in 3 public forums and are taking that feedback into account in our proposal.
All right, thank you very much. And now to hear from the con side, Jim Lorimer.
I represent a coalition which produces more than 1,000 events in Columbus each year. These events produce a total economic impact on Columbus of more than $1 billion. This group's concerns and fears should be weighed and valued. Ticket sales are the lifeblood of what we do. A ticket tax that gives their hard-earned money to other event producers is unfair and unjust. This unfairness is compounded by the fact that our city imposes one of the nation's highest bed taxes. Coalition members are the ones who primarily produce this bed tax, and yet they receive no money, not a cent, from the bed tax. The Arts Council received $7 million from the bed tax last year, and recently gave 8 of its members more than $250,000 each. Do we want to be the city with the highest bed tax in the nation and also one of the highest ticket taxes? Where's the justice? Where's the fairness? Most of the national and international events are brought to our city by 4 large entertainment companies: AEG Alive, Belkin Productions, Broadway Across America, and Feld Entertainment. These acts fill Nationwide Arena, Schottenstein Center, and the large downtown theaters. These companies' top executives are here today sitting at that table. And the reason they're here because they're very concerned about the impact of this tax and whether they're going to be able to bring the events to the community if they must give 7 to 8% of their profits to someone else. We are a city that is very favored as far as events goes from those national events, and we want to keep that position of favoritism. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We want to do some questions that will be, a couple of them will be for both of you, a couple of them will be, I want to direct to one side or the other. So I'd like to ask you, Tom or Frederick, to give us a little bit more of the information about the focus on the ticket fee. The support for the arts doesn't seem to be a point of contention, but talk about why a ticket fee is the vehicle to fund the arts and why now?
So why don't I start with that? I'll give you a little bit of history on it, and you can tell me if I'm talking too long. Again, there have been more than 30 studies done over the course of almost the last 15 years on arts and culture in Columbus. They've been funded by notable organizations like the Columbus Foundation, the Columbus Partnership, the Ohio State University, the City of Columbus funded the last one, the FRAC study, which I'll comment on here in a second. So lots of work has been done on this. Every one of these studies talks about the arts being underfunded publicly in Columbus. All of the cities that we compete with fund the arts sometimes 2-3 times on a per capita basis to what we do here in Columbus. So the need is definitely there. We also did some work with the former CFO of Kappa, who's retired. She's a CPA, and she calculated the need for the arts just to get to a sustainable level is an additional $15 million a year. As part of this process, we considered 12 different options, and we landed on the ticket fee. Again, we sounded them out. We polled against them. We considered sin taxes, property taxes, income taxes, sales taxes. This is the one that works and can bring in enough money and is commonly used in other cities. So there's 63 cities in Ohio that have an admissions fee, and all of the cities that we compete with for convention business have these fees, and some of them are quite high. Indianapolis is the highest at 10%. Cleveland is second at 8%.
Okay, thank you. So Jim or Brett, I'd like to ask you to talk a little bit about the notion of a 7% ticket tax as on sports and arts events. Is your objection to any sort of a ticket tax, or is there a smaller percentage that could fly?
Thank you. A member representing the tax came in to see me recently and asked if 5% would be working for our coalition. And I said I would check with the coalition. And I did, and they were uniformly opposed to any tax on the tickets. The tickets, as we say, is what carries them. And in our coalition, there are several people who have told me that a ticket tax is going to be an existential problem for them. They will likely not survive that because they are putting their lives into the business and just getting a very narrow profit. And so our position is that there should be no tax imposed on all these events for the benefit of just one segment of the community. These represent, as I said, 1,000 different events in this community.
Okay, well, I'd like to explore that a little bit more and to go to both sides on this. A core consideration of a ticket tax has to be the impact of that additional cost on ticket sales. So I would like to ask you, Tom or Frederick, why do you think that there would be a negligible effect, and then, more of the basis for that, and then Jim or Brett, your side as well on why, the basis for believing that that would be a negative effect. And I don't know, Jim or Brett, would you want to start first on that, since you were not going first on the others?
I can handle this, Jim. Thank you. Tom made an interesting point in that 63 other cities have a ticket tax. What he fails to tell you is that is a huge competitive advantage for our city by not having this onerous tax. Now, just because 63 other cities have a tax doesn't mean that we should have this tax. And it is a competitive. I mean, simple basic economics tell you that if you price your ticket higher, you're going to sell less tickets. I mean, that's the basic economic core argument that we are presenting.
Okay.
I would dispute that. We have a study that we did of 29 cities where there are ticket fees, and I can see no impact from these fees. And again, all the cities that we compete with do have them. I don't see us losing shows to the cities that have these fees, whether it's Indianapolis or Cleveland or Nashville. I mean, we're competing just fine with them. This is a broad-based tax. That's why we think it's very fair. So it's not an income tax. It's not a property tax. It's not a sales tax. It's a tax on the person, the user, the person that is going to the event. Our research also shows that people want to go to facilities that are of the finest quality, and they also want to go to see the finest quality programming. So the cost of the ticket falls behind those two issues. So it's about the quality of the programming, the quality of the facility, first and foremost, and then the ticket price. That's what our research shows. I'd be glad to share that with you. We looked at 29 cities.
And
If I may be
I
reminded.
think Brett
I'd like
is
to add
wanting
something, if I
to,
may. Wait a second.
how about one of you adding
Okay,
something, and
if
then we'll
you-
go on to the next thing.
I have talked to the heads of each of the major arenas in town. Again, we've got the baseball team, we've got the hockey team, and those managers are in this room today. And they have come to me and said, this is going to impact my box office. It's going to be very family unfriendly. I want to have entire families come in. And if they raise this ticket, I know it is going to impact the attendance.
Okay, let's,
Can I respond to that, or do you want to move on to another issue area?
we,
I just want to remind
let's move
everyone.
on, and we can
Okay.
come back if we need to. One of the things that we're looking at also with the tax is that it is on those facilities that are within Columbus city limits, and that may or may not be a concern about the competitive advantages with facilities that would be in suburban locations. So, Tom, can you talk a little bit, and then I would like to hear from the other side as well, about the fairness, or is that a concern about the difference between the city limits and the suburban locations?
So the power to do this in the state of Ohio, in the Ohio Revised Code, lies with municipalities. So the ticket fee, the admissions fee, can only be put on by a city council with the approval of a mayor. So the law directs it to be in the city limits. Actually, our current funding, because we receive city bed tax dollars, is also limited to the city limits. So the suburban arts organizations are all funding their programming, their facilities in their own way, whether they have local bed taxes or use other methods to do that. So the power lies with city councils to implement that.
Okay, and then Brett, did you want to?
I do. It's certainly going to be a competitive disadvantage. OBED's just built a $22 million facility under this tax proposal. They're not going to be charged for those tickets. Anyone outside of the city is not going to have this tax imposed. That's a very, very important distinction. If that is your question, Mary, the competitive disadvantage.
There's going to be a planted oasis in Delaware in a little over a year. Plaintiff's Oasis is going to put a $2 billion facility in Delaware. And I know there's no ticket tax in Delaware. And that $2 million facility is going to draw things from Columbus up there if there's a ticket tax here and not in Delaware.
One of the components of this that seems to be something of a lightning rod is the inclusion of the arena and some of the sharing of the revenue there. I would like to start with Tom to talk about the impact of including the arena, how you came to come up with the proposal that you have for how the money would be divided and why it's important to make sure that the arena is part of this, and then we'll ask the other side to comment as well.
Okay. Great question. It's very much on everyone's minds. The arena's been a great partner in this. We also, during this 3 to 4 year journey, considered other partners. The Affordable Housing Coalition, we met with those folks. We met with the Universal Pre-K folks just to see if we could forge a partnership, whether it was to go to the ballot or through this ticket fee thing. We've actually crafted a proposal where the arena is going to be a net contributor to arts and culture. So the arena, the Schottenstein Center, and the Ohio Stadium, concerts and professional sports will bring in almost 50% of the money. Under our proposal, we're proposing that 30% of that go back to the hockey arena. The hockey arena is 19 years old. It hasn't really had tremendous investment in it since that period of time. There's a 10-year capital improvement program for it that adds up to about $40 million. So it's about $4 million a year. They have some very big looming needs there, including a roof, a scoreboard, et cetera. And I want to remind you that the arena is also significant in all of our pitches for the major events that come to Columbus, the major conventions that come to Columbus. So obviously recently used by the NCAA Women's Final Four. The Avon Convention was in there, the 31 Gifts Convention. So it is significantly important that we take care of this arena and that it is in tip-top shape. Remember, ticket buyers want to go to where the product is and where the facility is good. So that's one reason why we thought it turned out to be a good partnership. So again, I would tell you, the arena is a net contributor to arts and culture under this proposal. 30% of the money is going back to the arena for their CapEx needs. 70% is coming to arts and culture.
Thank you. Brett?
Tom, my good friend, you did not need a partner in raising money for GCAC, and especially involving Nationwide Arena. Everybody in this room, everyone in here knows that the taxpayers have rejected funding for Nationwide Arena consistently over the years. Now, we're all sitting here trying to fix the problems that happened in the 90s when this city built two arenas that we cannot afford to maintain because we don't have enough events to spread between two arenas. I have an interest in the Bluestone. I want a new air conditioning system for the Bluestone. I think we provide a pretty significant contribution to the arts. Columbus Public Schools closed for 2 days last week because they didn't have air conditioning. I think our taxpayer dollars are better spent in the public schools than they are with Nationwide Arena.
So, Brett, my good friend, first of all, Columbus Public Schools is supported by school levies, so they're going to be fine. They'll figure out their building problems. They're going through a process right now about closing buildings. It is so important that we keep this hockey arena in good shape. It is, when you think about economic development and the Amazons of the world that are coming, they want to come to a city that has a downtown arena that's in good shape, and they want to come to a city that has a botanical garden that's first class, that has a science center that's first class, that has an art museum, that has a new wing, and now a modern art collection to go with it. This is what people are looking for. We provide 750,000 opportunities every year for school children in Columbus through the arts. So I get that people are living, I think people are living in the past on the arena. We own it, everybody. We have to take care of it. And I can't live the history of this. I mean, I've been here for 42 years, and I vaguely remember some of those things, and I guess I just wasn't focused on it at the time. I'm in that arena about 12 times a year for hockey and concerts, and it's a significant part of our civic cultural infrastructure downtown. Every major city has one of these. We have to take care of it.
I'd like to try to put you in each other's shoes for a minute. And so, Jim or Brett, you can decide who wants to answer this. Would you agree that having a vibrant art scene contributes to the overall quality of life and can make Columbus more attractive for hosting events like the Arnold Sports Festival and the Quarter Horse Congress? So if not a ticket tax, how should the arts be supported in Central Ohio?
Is that to us? Yeah. Okay. All I can say is that if this matter were put to a public vote, we're absolutely certain it would be defeated, just as they had defeated assessments for the Nationwide Arena 5 previous times. The people do not want to pay extra for every admission tax that they're going to be. I don't know what the answer is with respect to funding the arts. The arts recognize that they are now well-funded. They do a tremendous job for our community. They want this additional money to do yet better, and we should support them for that. But again, the ticket tax, putting it off on every other event in the community, every other event in the community has to support their events, is simply, as I said before, not right.
If I,
Well,
May I add to that, since I didn't get a chance to rebut Tom briefly?
Okay.
We absolutely support the arts. People in this room, I know what Jim Lorimer does privately to arts organizations in this city. There's no one in this room or up here on this table that doesn't support the arts in Columbus, but it shouldn't be a tax that doesn't benefit my facility but benefits Nationwide Arena's facility.
Can I jump in here, Mary? So this is great. You asked, first of all, to see if we can put it, sit in each other, stand in each other's shoes. I have little feet. This is a gem of an individual, so I don't presume I can fill his shoes. But you did ask a question, Jim. You said, or you made a statement, in fact. You said, you don't know how to solve this problem. Well, the good news is we have the solution here in the proposal for you. So we've taken that little piece out, and we have that. But for me, I feel a little, I lived in Philadelphia when Allen Iverson said this phrase. I feel a little bit like Allen Iverson. We're talking about practice. We're talking about practice, that famous quote. I feel like we're talking about supporting the arts, and it's put forward like one segment of the community benefits. I had the pleasure of working with Kenny McDonald and Alex Fisher, and, we're trying to recruit, whether it's Foxconn with Chairman Gal coming in here, or, Tom talked about Amazon or Facebook, all these opportunities. Folks are coming to cities because of 3 main things: a healthy educational system for the children, a vibrant arts and culture community, and a growing economy. And if we want to be a first-class city, which we are, but growing steadily and doing even better, and I can tell you as a new person to this community, I literally moved and relocated here because of the promise of something I heard called the Columbus Way, which is we don't do just if it benefits for us, but we work collaboratively to uplift the entire community. And much like I don't think anybody here would object to supporting public education, even though you may not have children or your children may go to private schools, we still know it's important to support through taxing public education. Similarly, we have the answer to solve the crisis of not supporting arts in this community, and it's a fantastic community with a thriving arts community that we just need to continue to grow it.
can I be, I want to, if I can, Mary, I'd like to put myself in Jim Lorimer's shoes for a minute. So if I'm Jim Lorimer, and I completely respect everything you have done for this city, Jim, and you know that I've said it to you numerous times, but I am very grateful that I have an event in the city where public financing flows through everything. The convention center where I have my annual event has just had a $120 million remodel and expansion. It's now bigger than Nashville's convention center. It has almost $3 million worth of public art in it between the garages and the Hilton Hotel, including a 49-foot-long Amina Robinson that's on loan from the Art Museum. Thank you, Nanette. And I also am grateful for the volunteers that we have in Columbus that staff my event. And I face the same thing every year with our Arts Festival. We have 600 volunteer shifts that are filled by local people for free that care about it. And Jim has the same thing, I'm sure, by some magnitude, because his event runs much longer than ours over the weekend. So I am very grateful for that.
Okay, thank you. I think it's pretty clear, there's a pretty clear understanding that the ticket tax as proposed would impact the larger locations, the arena, the Schottenstein Center, the zoo, concerts, that sort of thing. There is also some concern, I think, about smaller events and venues that depend on ticket sales. For instance, the Columbus Metropolitan Club, is this an event and a location that would be subject to the tax? And when you look at the smaller venues, what is the justification for taxing the smaller venues? Tom or
So if everyone can leave 7% as they leave today, that would be great. No. We had, as you know, we've gone through a significant public process on this proposal. We had 3 public meetings that were attended by more than 500 people. We've had numerous one-on-one meetings, including a few coming up yet this week, with very interested parties. We have really listened hard, and we are going to make some modifications in our proposal that we will present to City Council next week. It's not finished yet. This is actually as part of my listening tour, also being here today. Those modifications will revolve around ticket price and size of venue. And I'm looking at one of the people in particular that I've listened to very carefully over the last couple weeks on this. And I think it's important. It is not our intent to hurt the independent music business and other venues in this city with this fee. So we are looking at these. We are also taking a hard look at charitable events, obviously in the arts, the social services, the Metropolitan Club. A lot of nonprofits are having events where they're selling tables and tickets, and it's not our intent to include that either. But you'll see the details of this in the proposal that we give to City Council next week.
Okay, thank you very much. If you have not submitted written questions yet, I think there are some people who will be happy to pick up your questions if you want to hold them up. So we'll get those gathered up. We'll be going to the written questions in just a few minutes. One of the things that Brett, you may want to talk about is the arena's facility charges. Is that something that you believe could be adjusted to provide more funding for the arena, if not a ticket tax?
Well, that's our answer. I mean, Nationwide needs to take care of Nationwide, and they have the ability to charge a facilities tax. And if they are not concerned, as the studies show, that raising ticket prices is not a factor, then they shouldn't have any issue in funding those improvements with a general facilities tax.
Thank you. And Tom, if you could talk a little bit more about the timing. I know this is something that it didn't develop overnight. It's been looked at for a long time. And why is it important to do it now, based on what's coming down the road or where we've been in the past?
Again, I think we're at a tipping point with the arts. We have shown a need through our research of $15 million in addition to the bed tax dollars that we receive now, just to get to a level of sustainability. This is not about doing new things. This is about getting to stability. And so we can move up on that ranking, and then that will allow us to flourish and do more things. The money that we get now is very effectively and efficiently spent. We have very disciplined grant processes that we can go through. It's all publicly reported twice a year. I could go on and that. We're overseen by a public board of 29 members that have 5 public appointments to it. But the need is clearly there now. Also, the work that Diana did for us, I do see some dark clouds on the horizon. I mean, I see some of our major arts organizations going into deficit territory, and that makes me very, very concerned. It is such a key component, again, to marketing the city, bringing business here, bringing new companies here, retaining our workforce here. I'll just use a real quick example. USAtoday.com just did a story on the 10 reasons to visit Columbus. There's 36 million people a month that look at that website. 4 of the 10 reasons were in the arts and culture space. So this is why it's important, and this is why we gotta compete. There's like 1 million more people coming, everyone, in the next 25 years. I've got grandchildren I got to raise here. It's important.
Tom,
Okay.
Tom, we want you to be successful, but we don't want you to be successful on the backs of the LC, of the Bluestone, of the Great Southern. We don't want to support funding for a nationwide arena. That doesn't mean we don't want you to be successful.
Okay, I think we have some written questions from the audience. They've been very patient, and we want to get to their questions. So if the committee is ready with those, we're ready for you.
This is a question from Mark Lomax, and I think part of this has been addressed, but not entirely. How might this impact smaller and minority-run organizations? I think both positively and negatively.
Bottom line, if we have more money, we can fund more things. I have a couple good examples of that right now. As Mark knows, we're very involved in the programming of the Harlem Renaissance, which is a citywide celebration of the 100th anniversary of the Harlem Renaissance. It culminates October 18th in a major event at the Art Museum featuring Will Haygood, who's curated the exhibition there. But there's 100+ artists involved in this, 35 arts organizations. It came from the spark of an idea that Nanette Macy-Junes had in her head. She called Larry James, who called Will Haygood, and here we are with an event that's really, I think, helping diverse artists participate. And my job now, because we've done this for the year, is figuring out how to sustain that over like forever. So we keep these people continue to be involved in this. If we have more money, we can more than double the amount of grants that we give to artists. We funded 304 artists this year. We ran out of money in that budgeted grant category on July 1st. We give small grants to artists. We're one of the few places you can go to do that. It has a remarkable impact on people's careers to do that. Mark has, I think you're sitting over there, I see you, has an amazing thing happening next year that we all have got to get behind. He's going to be the artist in residency at the Wexner Center for the Arts, and it's just phenomenal, the recordings that he's making right now, and I hope we get to, again, continue to celebrate that. There's a lot happening in the artist community. They are the underpinnings of the creative class here in Columbus, and I am so biased towards them and helping them with these small grants and helping to market them. That's why our Art Makes Columbus campaign is focused on the artists living and working in Columbus and why this is a city to do that in. And the campaign has just won its 2nd Emmy. So thank you.
Real quick, along with minority-owned organizations, also just impacting the underserved community in general. So, for example, COSI, like many other institutions, uses public support to actually have open programs. We have programs where Family Night, where families from underserved populations, whether it's a Hilltop, King Lincoln area, Linden, can come to COSI and have that great experience for free, as well as programs that we have that go out in the community. And so this public funding not only will help actual minority-owned organizations, but make sure we can have great resources like those mentioned, the Conservatory, the Art Museum, COSI, being able to be accessible by underserved populations who can't pay the regular ticket fee.
And then, Jim, did you want to
The small business question is a very good one. As I mentioned before, many people on our coalition are at that status. They feel threatened. But at the 3 meetings of the Arts Council, which were held in the community, we had representatives at each of that meetings, and what was very, very interesting was the number of small arts producers in this town who stood up in those meetings and said, "You are going to put me out of business." Because there are small events in the arts community also. So his response was to that maybe we can work out some way of omitting the small business from this tax. And you tell me how you do that, as far as where's the dividing line. But the small arts community was very much present and very outspoken against this tax. So it's just not the people in our coalition, but people in the arts community doing smaller events who are going to be maybe put out of business.
Okay, let's move on to the next audience question, please.
Question comes from Jane Scott, and it is, how will the accounting, collection, reporting, and payment of this tax work?
So the bed tax is collected by the city auditor. It works very well and very efficiently. They have accounts for all the hotels, and I'm assuming, obviously, they would be collecting it. They would keep some small, modest portion of it for administrative costs, and we would get a monthly report on the amount of money that was coming in from the ticket fee.
Okay, pretty
That is
straightforward.
another good question, the collection of it. Our event runs pretty much year-round, and what we have seen by way of proposal this time is that you're going to report your ticket tax returns every 30 days throughout the year. And reporting on your events as they come in throughout the year, we'd have to hire somebody extra. There's got to be extra people hired downtown to, again, manage that type of oversight. It's not an easy thing to do the collection and the tracking of it.
Thank you, Jim. Next question.
This is a question from Michael Bongiorno. Are the 4 major event organizations Jim mentions Columbus-based companies, or do they make their money here and take it back to their home states and cities?
Is that for you, Tom?
That's not for me. Yeah, that's not for me.
Was the question about these major producers coming into town?
Question says, are the 4 that you mentioned, when they come, do they make their money here and then take it back?
The way this, the question is about the major producers we're talking about.
Are they taking their money outside of the city, or are they reinvesting it here in the city of Columbus?
No, obviously, the people from California who come in, the AEGs of the world, who fill those stadiums, you have to understand the dynamics, the risk factors involved in those really big cases. And what they must do, again, is protect that. As I said before, 6 to 7% of the millions of dollars they bring in, that is naturally their businesses, but they're very specialized, high-risk people who are bringing in fabulous entertainment that can fill the Ohio State University Stadium, can fill, again, most of my people don't use the Nationwide Arena. But the people who come in from out of the town, those 4 groups I mentioned, who are represented right at that table there, they are very concerned. Again, there's a primary market in these touring businesses. The primary markets are Chicago, New York, Los Angeles. Then all the other markets are in competition for the events, and the markets that get the advantage is the advantage we get of no tax, is where these people are bringing so many events and so many large events. Mr. Belkin at that table there is bringing in about 20 events a month in this city. And a tremendous thing. And Mr. Belkin lives in Cleveland, but he, again, obviously, he's the risk taker and what is attractive there. But if he's going to pay 7 or 8% of his business, he's probably not going to bring as many events here, and he won't. And if we have him stand up, he'll tell you that.
Mr. Belkin recommended it's 20 per month, per year, rather than month.
What do you think?
Large event.
Okay, and I'm not seeing a Tom or Frederick wanting to jump in on that. Do we have another question?
This comes from Kathy Fox. How do fees on ticket purchases such as Ticketmaster compare in cost to the proposed ticket tax for Columbus, and do those Ticketmaster fees reduce ticket purchases?
So, yes. There are Ticketmaster fees. You've all noticed that. It varies widely. It can be as much as 20 to 30% on a single ticket. There is no sales tax on tickets in Franklin County. So that burden is not there. So all you've got is the price of the ticket and the Ticketmaster fee. Now, I can't speak to the Ticketmaster fee. I don't know that business, but it is a significant addition to the cost of a ticket.
Do we have another audience question?
This is from Carol Newcomb. Has serious thought been given to a compromise, not 7.5, but 3 or 3.25%, or perhaps a step tax starting at 1% and rising over 10 years to 7%? The amount of 8 staff at GCAC having salaries of at least $250,000, what comparison has been made with sports owners, managers in Columbus?
That's kind of two different things. The first is talk of a compromise. No, there has not been talk of that. The next point in this process is we are going to make a recommendation to City Council next week. They will conduct a process around that will be similar, if not better, to the process that we conducted. So they will have public meetings on it, they will have convenings, gatherings, et cetera, and I would expect that process to take at least a couple months. So that's the next step in the process.
Well, there has been no, there has been no talk of compromise because we don't have the right plan yet. And I'll defend my good friend Tom's salary to the arts community. He runs a big organization. We all know what he makes if you look it up on the internet. And I think it's a very fair salary for the work he does. He's just dead wrong on this tax proposal.
Not that I feel like I need to defend my salary, but I will tell you how my salary is set. I have a 29-member board. 5 of the folks are publicly appointed to that board. They evaluate me every year. My board vice chair is sitting here, Lori Barreras, who runs that process. My performance is reviewed by more than 100 people in this city because my board sends out, my board members are in here shaking their heads about, you cannot imagine what this is like for me to go through every year, but every year I am evaluated by the city leaders of this city in addition to my board, and that includes people like the mayor, the county commissioner, several of the civic leaders that are sitting here today.
We defended you. You're taking up too much time.
All right. It's a point of personal privilege, my friend. Yeah.
Comes from Eric Brembeck, and this is kind of for the pro side. What do the supporters of this tax, how do the supporters of this tax justify taxing for-profit businesses and giving some of that money to nonprofit organizations that compete with these for-profit businesses? And he specifically mentions movie theaters versus nonprofit movie theaters such as the Gateway Film Center and the Drexel. So I don't know if you can comment.
Your tax.
Can you repeat that question again?
So I think this goes to how you're going to tax for-profit businesses such as movie theaters that compete in the same space as some nonprofit nonprofits as well? And who would get that money back? Would both organizations get a piece of that pie?
You want to talk about the application process? Or?
Well, yes, so I'll start. This is a proposal that will benefit everyone. So whether you're receiving money from GCAC or whether you're the arena or not, it will benefit everyone. It's going to improve the quality of life in this city. It's going to allow us to do more work in the nonprofit arts community. It's going to improve the tourism to this city, our ability to lure new companies like Amazon here, big conventions, like if we decide in 2024 to go after the Democratic or Republican National Convention after the new Hilton is built. That is what this is about. Everyone will benefit. Just like we all benefit from the zoo levy, we all benefit from the school levies, we all benefit from the Metro Parks levy, which is on the ballot in 6 weeks here. This is a proposal that will benefit everybody, whether you're private sector, public sector, and whether or not you're paying into it or not, or receiving grants from us or not.
And Tom, I think that sounded almost like maybe your 30-second closing, but we did promise Frederick that he could do the 30-second closing, and then Brett will go to you for your 30-second closing.
Thank you. To tee it up, again, new to this community, I learned something called the Columbus Way, and the urban legend said, oh, they even teach this at Harvard Business School. Well, I had the fortune of going to Harvard Business School for a leadership training program with many people in this room a few months ago, and sure enough, Harvard Business School, and yes, Harvard doesn't have a great football program, but they do know a few things about leadership and creating some of the best leaders in the world. And what I'm holding up is Exhibit A, which is one of 7 case files that they use, and I'll read the quote real quick. It talks about the Columbus Way. City leaders considered Columbus far from typical, however, in the manner that citizens worked together. Open quotes, cooperation and collaboration is the Columbus Way. The editors of that fine newspaper, the Columbus Dispatch, wrote in 2012. And further on, one of the leaders says, with all respects, civic, business, government, community leaders, organizers have the expectation of each other that we put our selfish interests aside, or at least below community interests. I think the Columbus Way has been our way for a long time. I'm not sure we've always been introspective enough to actually have recognized it and talked about it. This is about the Columbus Way, doing what's right for an integral part of society, which is arts and culture. For me, it's a closed case.
Okay. And Brett.
I think what we've seen here today is that this plan has a lot of holes in it. My good friend Tom and my new friend Fred couldn't answer a lot of the questions that were posed in this forum today. But what I do know is that none of us want corporate welfare, and that's what a big component of this thing is about with Nationwide Arena. Voters have consistently rejected this public funding. We can't let it happen here. We can't sidestep the voters. We can't rush this to City Hall and have council members decide what is best. If this plan is so good, then let's take it to the voters. Now, what wasn't discussed here at all today was that GCAC last year from the bed tax received $7 million. They have to live within their means. We have a competitive advantage here. We need to keep it. My good friend Tom's got to go back to the drawing board and figure out a better way to do this.
Okay, Carol.
Thank you very much, and thank you all for joining us for the CMC Way, which is civil conversations about important issues. Let us thank the Event Marketing Strategies and the Columbus Dispatch for their support and our speakers. Tom Katzenmeyer, Frederick Berkeley, Jim Lorimer, Brett Adams, and Mary Yost. And thank you all for being here. See you next Wednesday.